Well, good Saturday morning to everybody. I have with me this grappling dummy. Just a reminder: if you want to make an upper body grappling dummy, this thing is totally usable. Like pretty good grappling dummy. Pillow. I had rolled up some. I started by rolling up 2 towels, and they go arm to arm. Then I put a pillow in. Then I put a hoodie on the whole thing. Then I turned it over and put a hoodie on it backwards. So this is the hoodie over the hoodie facing backwards. Then I put a gi on it. I mean, easiest thing in the world. I did it as a last minute decision 5 minutes before I jumped into class. So if you have towels, a pillow, and 2 hoodies, you're good to go, man. And an upper body grappling dummy is very helpful. Think of all the things you can do. All the arm locks, all the chokes, any guillotine stuff. You know, it's just helpful to have the body there, just like I know it's helpful to see a body there. So that's Orko. He's here for now. And then I've also been shooting some stuff with Brad Wolfson, which is, I know, also an improvement over just solo drilling. So lucky to have both those things, and I'm glad to have bothered doing this, and I'm glad to have a dedicated training partner in Brad now to be sharing info with you. The other good thing about Brad is, more than this guy, Brad knows a bunch of jiu-jitsu, and I'm learning jiu-jitsu right along with you when he shows, his version of a move or his idea from a position, and that's been happening. So if you haven't seen any of the classes I did with Brad, go look up Plainville Martial Arts on YouTube. Some of you guys are on YouTube right now. After this class, just go look them up. None of them are longer than 15 or 20 minutes. I think 10, 15 minutes. There's a couple classes on there with Brad Wolfson, who owns Soulcraft in Hamden. He's another Globetrotter, BJJ Globetrotter guy, if that's how you know me, if how you come to me through YouTube. And I've been picking up some great stuff from him too, including from this position that we're working this week. And this week we're doing top of side control. We're doing a sub position of top of side control, which is scarf hold and broken scarf hold, or as you'll hear me call it, Kesa, which is short for Kesa Gatame, which I don't think it actually means scarf hold in Japanese, but that's what they refer to this position right here as. I looked it up. I actually looked up Google Translate, and it meant something causing pain or something like that. So not surprising if you've been in this position. This would be scarf hold. This, where I have the head and the arm, and you do want the elbow off the ground, and I've got a nice wide base here. I can sink all my weight into my friend here. That's scarf hold. Broken scarf hold, or Kazuri Kesa Gatame, technically, is when I have the whole torso under me, right? Not just the head, neck, and arm, but the whole torso. And I'd like to point out, once again, which I've done this week already, the difference, which is I'm under the far armpit and I've got this arm. This makes it harder for them to fight. This will become a fight, them trying to get an underhook back, as opposed to scarf hold, generally seen by most Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioners as inferior, because he has the underhook now. This is the beginnings of him getting up to my back if I goof or if he can create space, okay? And that's why I say generally regarded by most jiu-jitsu people who learns headlock attacks, as you guys do, for first stripe, second stripe. I mean, you're supposed to know how to get out of a headlock, and this is essentially a headlock. But it's a little more advanced than a headlock. And what I want to say is, historically in jiu-jitsu, this position's been dismissed, Kesa Gatame. We usually go to Kazuri Kesa Gatame. We usually go to this broken scarf hold position because of more torso control, more upper body control, and no underhook for our opponent. But that doesn't mean that this position is trash, okay? I think we used to think this position's trash. Don't bother going here. Well, I have students who, as a white belt, would definitely change your mind about that. Let's talk about why, and let's talk about some good stuff you can do from this position. Okay. Now, you have to keep in mind this. It helps once you know some jiu-jitsu that you have the ability to keep in mind the escapes that this person's trying to do. So you may know that one of their goals is to bridge your head up to here and to roll you over your shoulders this way. So you might want to have like an even higher base up here so that your head can't be brought down. You're going to be playing on the edge of where your weight is, not too far one way or the other. And your knowledge of this person's escapes from this position may help you hold this position long enough to be launching attacks. And we're going to talk about the attacks from scarf hold, from the position formerly regarded as not that great a position for a jiu-jitsu guy. And we're going to talk about why it's actually pretty good. So, Kesa Gatame, scarf hold, standard scarf hold when I've got the head. We have, as we had when I had Kazuri Kesa Gatame, which I did 2 series of on Tuesday and on Thursday. We have the same first series of attacks I want you to know with one modification. And that is this. I do want to be under the elbow and up, maybe holding my leg because this closes a circuit. It's not an open circuit here that maybe they can work their way into. Close the circuit. Okay? Now, a person may well be defending here, like my hand is like this, his hand is like this, and I can grab the wrist, lean away, create a straight arm of my own, and then bend their arm this way into an L shape. From here I can finish the same movement we finished the Americana using the legs with in Kazuri Kesa Gatame we can do from here. Okay, and it also goes, it also remains true that if I push this down and he straightens the arm, that I can bring my inner thigh over the wrist, my other inner thigh under the elbow, push the shoulder down, and push the wrist down while I lift the elbow. So that's these motions here. Now, I'm breezing past this because I did cover this in Tuesday's Kazuri Kesa Gatame class. The only difference is where my arm is. It doesn't change much else except that you'll be balancing slightly differently here. So by all means, look at Tuesday's class if you want to see more of this bent arm attack series, okay? But that's the first thing I want to say from Kesa Gatame. It's definitely still here. It might even be easier to hit. It might even be easier to peel this away from the body, peel that away, and catch one of these moves, or have them straighten. And then I did talk about what if the person not only goes from an L to a straight arm, which of course, if they go from the L to a straight arm, and then I start doing this and they bend it to get out, I'm going to go right back to here. What if they go the other way? What if they go, no, I don't want to get bent arm. I don't want a straight arm. So they turn it over entirely. They go palm down. If a person straightens their arm but then goes palm down, so it's totally turned over, maybe even bent into what we might think of as sort of more of a Kimura shape, what I'm going to do is step over it. I can pinch it if you want. And I'm going to let go with my hand, reach around behind, and now reconnect here. Now I've got a hold of the arm here. And what we did in Kazuri Kesa Gatame, when I also had the arm in the picture, was step over the head. But with my arm under here, now I'm asking you to do some human pretzel stuff. And I'm never going to ask you to do human pretzel stuff. That's not good jiu-jitsu. Good jiu-jitsu, in my mind, the best jiu-jitsu is going to be stuff with natural body movements that you can do that any person who walks into my gym can do. Okay? So I do want you to step over the head, but we're going to switch back to Kazuri. So you're just going to put some weight on the guy. Try to reestablish this underhook. It's just a circle. I'm doing it quickly because I can't lean much on this dummy. And now I can step over, put my head on the ground, dig underneath, and catch this mounted triangle position. All of that still possible from regular scarf hold, from Kesa Gatame. Boom, he straightens, he turns it over, I pinch, I grab. I just can't step over the head from here. So I'm going to switch to Kazuri Kesa Gatame to finish if that's what I want to do. Brad gave us another really cool option this week if you check out his class. Something totally different from these, where he brought this leg over and he set up fooled the guy into getting up into a triangle. So again, an advertisement for that class with Brad. And I wouldn't advertise it if I didn't think it was great, and I think it was great because I learned something too from Brad, new moves. Okay, so the bent and straight arm locks are still available from scarf hold. You can still attack this arm, boom, catch the bent, straight arm locks, and even maybe, this triangle if you switch yourself back to Kazuri. But there's more. Kesa Gatame has its own unique setups and attacks, and let's take a look at those. So sometimes what a person will do from the bottom of this position, especially if you know the attacks for the person on the bottom of this position, which is to say he wants his elbow on the ground, but if I pick it up, he might wrap his arms around me, pretending that's also wrapped around me, grab a hold of my torso, and then try to heave me up and roll me over. That would be an escape for my friend here. Okay, so with his arm wrapped around me, what we get is this. The elbow is about, I know I'm wearing white, he's wearing white, that may be a little bit hard to see. His elbow is right here. Okay, so I'm going to get almost like a heel hook grip on his elbow, which is to say I'm going to put it on top of my forearm. Now I've got it here on my forearm. You could even hold it, but I do want a grip that lifts his elbow a little bit, okay? From here, with my weight on this foot and my elbow, I'm going to slide down and lean back. It's hard to imagine if you've never felt it, possibly, but what happens is his arm is up and around me, and when I slink through, when I slide through, I would call this, I guess, sort of a sliding Kimura, because his arm is wrapped around me. I hold on to / lift a little bit his elbow while I slide underneath, and what it does is it turns his arm over this way. It's not a Kimura like we usually see a Kimura where it's way next to the body, because it's up here, but when you do that, when you bring someone's elbow, like the tan side, not the pale side, of their elbow, sort of to the top of their head while their wrist is forced down, we don't bend that way, and that's a very good Kimura. It's another type of Kimura. So this right here, deceivingly simple. I get my good Kesa Gatame position. He wraps his arm around my waist. I'm going to just sort of get a little grip with the wrist bone under his elbow, and I'm going to slide up here. One thing I find helps is if you can, where his head matters. Sometimes if I do this, sometimes someone leans away, they go, because they're basically trying to keep the tan side of their elbow away from their head. So if you can really keep the head in the mix, maybe by sliding up to the masseter process from the neck, just a little bit higher under the skull, and keep the head near the arm, you may find that it's more effective. So that's a small adjustment that you can make for this sliding Kimura. Again, he's got his arms around my waist, hook the elbow, I slide down, and I'm trying to turn his arm over, put the tan side of his elbow against his temple, okay? And that's a sliding Kimura from the top of Kesa Gatame, scarf hold. We also have, it may not be immediately apparent, but we're not far from a head and arm choke, from a standard head and arm choke that we might initially set up from, mount or the back when a guy turns the wrong way. So let's look at that. Again, from this position where his arm is around me, somebody wraps their arms around my waist, because I got their elbow off the ground, and honestly, he's trying to find a safe place to put his hand. This isn't the best place because I can pry it out around my waist. At least I can't see it, and he can start to set up his rolling escape. Okay. If I can swim inside, that's where this next one comes in. Okay. So I'm going to swim inside, so that's one way to get under the arm. Okay. And another is sometimes what a person does down here is they frame. He puts in a good frame right here, maybe with both hands, and he starts framing across. I just can't grab that one too. Starts framing. If that's the case, I'm going to push the elbow across, slink down, and put my head against his head. Okay? So we might get here two ways. One is his arm is around my waist, and I swim inside, and I lift it up. You can try to hold it here, but I'm just going to have to get my C grip behind their elbow to hold their arm against their head long enough to get my head behind it. My head is now behind the tricep, and I'm trying to keep a connection between my head and their head. Okay? The other way was if they're framing me, I can just push this across and put this in here. Now, space between our heads is bad because it's an alley that he wants to freedom. If he could raise his hand over his head and turn in to face me, and this is a way out for him. So once I achieve the arm across and my head against his head, I want to keep my head against his head because it is the thing that keeps his arm in there, okay? Now, I'm generally palmed down with this hand. I think there might be differing schools of thought. If I'm on the side of my wrist, pinky side of my wrist like this, my wrist is taller and it might hurt his neck more in a pain way, in a, not even neck crank, but kind of pressure pointy way. Not exactly the best way to be attacking somebody in jiu-jitsu, and I'd rather be safe with my opponent's bones, like the bones of their neck, and just attack the carotid arteries like we're supposed to. So personally, I'm always palm down here, and I'm going to finish this move with a couple of pointers on the palm down thing here. So my head's against the head, I go palm down. Now I'm going to thread the needle here and go, let's see if I have enough room, belly down right next to my guy here. The arm is trapped across his neck. My arm is on the other side. So that's two choking forces. His arm on one side, my arm on the other side. And while I can tighten his arm, kind of so much using my trap or using my neck, I really want my strangulation is going to kind of come more from me tightening my own arm against the far side of the neck. So I'm going to do that 3 ways. Walking my fingers, that's one way. The assisted walk, which is keep him where he is and walk. I find that was very effective because I getting much deeper now. And or a third way, which would be to create an S grip right here. And with a loose arm, this arm's going to be loose. I'm going to just pull it through like it's a rope I'm trying to tighten around a guy's neck. So I make a connection, but I don't start squeezing. I don't push this in. I pull it in. I use this as the force. This is the force, pulls that in deeper. Now, hips off the ground and drive in off your toes. That's how I finish this most often. I have heard people make the recommendation to cut out to an angle. So to come out to like 90 degrees helps some people finish it. I haven't needed that historically. Personally, have not needed that historically. But you're gonna, body size and shapes vary, I suppose. But every time I've taught someone this way, I've seen them succeed at it. Small, big, short, tall, broad, skinny, whatever. So, but feel free to experiment and find the best way for you. It's an option to walk out a little more perpendicular to your guy. Okay, I'm going to show that one more time. So again, from Kesa Gatame, he wraps his arm around, and I swim under and bring his arm against his head. Or he's framing on my neck, and so I use my C grip, and I push this across further, and I put my head down. I've trapped his arm now across, and this is a great entry for this head and arm choke. Okay. Now, I'm already starting to think about turning this over where I'm going to be able to walk it deeper, and I'm also going to be threading the needle here so that I'm flat and basically parallel to my guy. And I'm going to do my 1, 2, 3. 1, unassisted. 2, assisted. And 3, the pull. Okay, now I'm going to get on my toes, hips off the ground, and drive. I just drive forward. This is not about squeezing. It's not about squeezing. All of your tightening should be done. You should have gotten this as deep as you can. Now, what takes away space is only my body gliding over the ground. And it is a parallel glide. I don't want this. You're going to think you want this the first few times you do this movement because you're like, yeah, man, now I'm using gravity. But this closes the space. But I can even feel the space close better when I'm down here. You just want to glide right along the ground for that good head and arm choke. Okay. Now, I'm going to need a gi top for this. There's kind of a backup plan on this. Sometimes, when you're doing a head and arm choke, if somebody's, this guy's starting to look like sloth. Okay. So, sometimes when you set up a head and arm choke, a good defense for the person on the bottom is to turn essentially away. Let's say he's framing. I push this across, and I start coming down here. He might roll up onto his side more. And what that does is, my arm's across the front of his throat, which you might think is a better choke, but I actually don't have as good a choke here. I don't have as good ability to keep him from framing, creating space, turtling away. I'm starting to lose things when a person gets on their side, facing away from me in a head and arm choke. I'd like them flat on their back. If I don't do a good job of keeping them flat, or if they're savvy, quick, or skilled enough to get on their side, what I need to do, a follow-up that I can do, is this. I push the arm across. He knows things are going to get bad. Starts to roll away. I'm going to do this. I'm going to find my sleeve right away. My 4 fingers are going to go into my sleeve, and hold on to it. This hand is going to go, don't try to push it straight in. You're going to come over and sort of chop down on the neck here. And I've set up an Ezekiel choke. Okay, I'm using my sleeve to choke my person. My arm's going to be on the underneath side of his neck. That's the bottom side. The top side is now cut off by the pinky side of my hand. But this isn't the best position. What is the position I'm in right now? Not the best position to be finishing an Ezekiel choke. It's better if I can get a better position. Also, if the Ezekiel doesn't work, I've set myself up for further success. So I'd like to get to a position where I switch my knees. I'm going to put the outside of my left knees on the floor right now. I'd like to put the outside of my right knee there. So I'm going to go here. Okay? And start stepping over so that I'm taking the back. Finish the Ezekiel right here. You can take all the space away just by not letting go. That's a good grip. You're not going to have a problem not letting go. And just cutting across here. The space there, neck is in, is right there, and I'm taking that space away. So again, this is just a follow-up to the head and arm choke. We happen to be doing it from Kesa, but it's the perfect time to mention it. Person's framing on my neck, C grip. I'm going to push that across. But the guy is kind of savvy to the head and arm, and he sort of rolls onto his head. He's trying to get away. Person tries to get away that way. I'm going to find with my 4 fingers, put them in my sleeve. They go right in my sleeve. This hand chops the top of the neck. So now I have something on both sides of the neck. That's good. I don't have the other thing I might prefer to have to finish a good submission, which is a good position. So I'm going to switch from the outside of my left knee, totally turn over, put the outside of my right knee there, step over, start sitting him up. He'll be tapping by now. You won't need to bother taking the back. If something happens and this grip breaks, at least you have the back. Okay? So the Ezekiel choke, as a follow-up to the head and arm choke. What is going on here? As a follow-up to the head and arm choke, this thing's looking more and more mutant-y. Long neck, small head. Okay, looks like that thing from Evil Dead. Okay, the Ezekiel's a great follow-up to the head and arm choke. And head and arm choke is one of our really good attacks that we can set up from Kesa Gatame. Okay, lastly, I'm going to talk about the diaphragm choke or the chest choke. Made famous in recent memory, less recent, every year, I guess, in Metamoris when Josh Barnett caught Dean Lister, who had not been caught in competition in 18 years or something like that. This guy had not been caught in forever. Essentially doesn't have much of an exposed neck, just structurally. It's how it's the way the guy's built. He's like one of these guys. Dean Lister, who is amazing and fantastic, and I've been in his classes, and I love his vibe and his classes and his instruction. And he's a genius, and he speaks 5 languages. He's a super interesting guy. Got caught by Josh Barnett, who has definitely knows jiu-jitsu, but also does catch wrestling, and brought to the table this move from this position that was under-respected, probably still at that time. And in a move, everybody just watched happen and couldn't believe. So the chest choke, diaphragm choke. Okay, and it comes from this position. This is Kesa Gatame, not Kazuri Kesa Gatame. You can be heavy from this position, but you can prevent a person from breathing in this position. We're going to talk about how. He's got the arm around my waist. I'm going to handle this way. This is another one where I'm going to swim inside, and I'm going to pry the arm, bring the arm over to the guy's head like this. Bring his arm over his head like this. I'm just trying to get a deeper grip here. I'm just trying to be deeper. And then I'm going to create an S grip right here. S grip is the grip I believe that Josh Barnett used and uses. So I've come underneath the arm. You have to be inside here. And you bring it high, meaning don't bring his elbow up here, up to the top of his head if you can, which you have a lot of leverage here. This is a good prying tool. You could even pry it, literally pry it by putting your hand down, close the chain, and open it up like this. So you could come in and pry it like this, but it's all to get deeper with this arm. Now create an S grip here, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to put all my weight on my person's chest, and I'm going to imagine that I'm going to bring their chin to their belly button. Right? I'm going to put all my weight on, and I'm going to pick the head up. It looks like a neck crank. It's not a neck crank as much as it is a chest choke. It's not super comfortable to sit up like this, but it's not like the person's pulling the top of your head so hard that it's like overstretching your spine. It isn't that. It's that when I bring the chin up, it's just too paralyzing to the diaphragm to continue to be able to properly breathe. So what you will see and feel when you do this, here, pry this up, right, reach in, get your S grip, chest down. Your butt should not be on the ground. All your weight should be on your guy. Bring his chin to his navel, and you're going to hear them exhale, and then you're going to hear them try to inhale, but find out that they can't. They'll probably start trying to frame and stuff from here, as Dean Lister did. And that last time I was caught in this move, which is a totally legitimate move, I tried to create a frame with this hand, tried to push the head, tried to bring the leg over the head. But the fact is, there's no breathing as long as this person's here. So if they can withstand a little bit of framing, a little bit of leg showing up, you will lose on the bottom when you cannot breathe in. So this is the move right here, and wait, and the person will run out of their ability to breathe. They'll breathe out, but not be able to breathe in again. So one last time, I'm in Kesa, swim under this arm. I want to bring it up to their head. This is a great way to close this chain and pry my elbow up. It's a great way to pry the arm. Now reach deeper with this arm, and you're trying to get an S grip here. When you see me slinking, I'm just finding the best part of my ribs, which would be like kind of my fixed rib, my lowest fixed rib, putting that on the person's chest, and then I all my weight on them, which is to say my butt comes off the ground, chin to the belly button or hips. They'll breathe out, you'll sink in, and then you'll see what happens when a person is drowning, and it's a lot of flailing, and then they'll tap. Okay, and that it feels like drowning. It is a somewhat frightening experience to be on the bottom of that move. So again, if you follow your ribs down, some of them connect to your sternum, like all of these connect to a center piece, but the last couple don't, and they like squish in easier and stuff like that, and they have that flexibility probably so that they don't break as easily because they're closer to the part of our body that bends the most. But if you can use your lowest fixed rib, which is somewhere over across the nose, I guess, of this Spartan, and not your floaters. Your floaters are going to squish in and move around, obviously, more when you put them on somebody. So fixed ribs are what you want to put on somebody. So if you find that your waist is on somebody and you're squishing in, like we're squishy there, you want to find where you're hard and then find that. That's what I was doing when I was talking about putting my fixed rib on them. You're just harder halfway up than you are below halfway up where you're squishy. I don't want to put squishy stuff on my opponent. I want them to suffer under that pressure. Anyway, just as a recap of this week, from Kazuri Kesa Gatame, which is not just the head, but when I have the far arm, we did 2 series, one on Tuesday, one on Thursday. Thursday, one I did with Brad. He actually added one. The one we did on Tuesday was the bent arm lock series. The one we did on Thursday was the one where I step over the head, and I attack the arm, and then the Americana. There's a razor there. Brad does a triangle there. Today we talked about not Kazuri Kesa Gatame, not broken scarffold, but Kesa Gatame, where I just have the head and the arm. And today we talked about, yes, you can still do the bent and straight arm locks. You could even do that triangle if you put yourself in Kazuri. Okay. We did a shoulder lock today, where I was here. Their arm was around me, and I caught it here, and I caught just a slight movement that almost risks nothing, always worth trying. A little sliding Kimura shoulder lock. We did the head and arm choke and the follow-up Ezekiel. And then the last thing we talked about here was the Barnett or diaphragm or chest choke. So thanks for being here, guys. Saturday morning. We're not far from getting back on the mat with each other. Having a dedicated training partner as I do, I can say that it is great to be doing jiu-jitsu with another person again. And my students, as you know, you're going to be in very small partner groups. If you have mats at your house and you know who's in your partner group, which some of you guys already do, I'll be announcing it to those that don't, and you want to train with someone in your partner group as an unofficial, not a PMA official class, but just to get together with somebody, it's okay with me if you start doing that because that person's going to be in your group anyway. Please do not train with people who are not going to be in your group. The whole purpose of having small partner groups is that we only expand our social circle by 1 or 2 people. That's for the safety, not only of yourself, but of the other people in your group. So, but if you have mats and someone in your group that you can get together with, please start. I have a dedicated partner. It would be hypocritical to tell you not to. I'm just asking that you keep it in your groups. I look forward to being on the mat, seeing you on the mat very soon, and thanks for tuning in.